Hey everybody, Leslie Tagorda, your brand astrologer here, and we are still in the middle of Cancer season. So we're still talking about my favorite astrological subject, the moon. So last podcast episode, we talked about the moon phases and how to work with that in your business. And the week before, we talked about 5 ways to use your moon sign in your brand. But hey, we skipped one really important part of understanding our moon sign, right? And that is your moon sign meaning. So today we're going to be talking about unlocking your moon sign, what your moon sign means in your brand. I call this your inner brand. 5 ways to illuminate your moon sign. And then I will be asking you 6 questions so that you can integrate your moon sign into your very authentic brand. Before we dig in, I wanted to share a user rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Reiki Rita says, above and beyond, 5 stars. I got a reading with Leslie as well as listening to her podcast and being part of her Facebook group. Leslie goes above and beyond. It took me a while to process all she gave me in my reading. Her message talked to me on a soul level. Her readings are not only about helping with your business, but cross over into the deep personal meaning for your life. She gives advice on how to navigate in your business with flow and not struggle. If you're looking for practical ideas to implement that match your ideal business, you can't go wrong with Leslie. Oh my gosh, Rita, thank you so much for the glowing review. I love hearing everybody's love notes. It really helps me keep motivated in producing this weekly podcast for you. If you found this podcast helpful, please consider rating or reviewing, as well as sharing this podcast with others in real life or online. You have no idea how much each of your sharing and rating and review helps these podcasts get into more listeners' ears. Okay, so before we dig into your moon sign, I wanted to let you know that there are a ton of worksheets that go along with today's moon sign episode. If you head over to Patreon, you can get a bunch of different worksheets about the moon sign meaning, about the 12 different archetypes, and a bunch of integration questions so you can journal and get really deep with your moon sign and how to bring it into your brand. Go to patreon.com/The Savvy Luminary to get your moon worksheets. As I mentioned earlier, this is kind of an extension of episode 23. 5 ways to use your moon sign in your brand. If you have to take a little pause and go back to that episode, I highly recommend it because in that episode, we talk about your moon sign and how it's an emotional anchor that allows you to make really good decisions for your business from a place of security, right? We also talk about our moon sign as representing our intuition and how we are able to make decisions in our business based on our gut and our intuition, our spidey sense, whatever you want to call it. We also talk about how our moon sign allows us to face our fears and to understand the stories that hold us back. Then we also look at the moon sign as how we are able to choose our destiny. And then, of course, the most important, our moon sign as our why in our brand, our motivation, right? So I give you these powerful tools in 5 ways to use your moon sign in your brand. But now let's actually talk about your specific moon sign. Let's talk about how you can dissect your moon sign and implement it in your brand. Of course, you're going to need to know what your moon sign is, right? The moon takes about 2.5 days to travel through each sign of the zodiac, and it completes its entire cycle in about 28 or 29 days, a typical moon cycle. And because the moon moves so quickly, it's really important to know your birth time, especially if you're born during that time or close to that time where the moon is transitioning from one sign to the next. So you can go to any of your free natal chart sites like astro.com astro-charts.com or astro-charts.com. You can even go to my site, The Savvy Luminary /chart, to get your beautifully designed natal chart. So let's talk about our moon sign meaning, right? In business, we're thinking about, okay, we talked a little bit about this in the previous episode. What does our moon sign, our intuitive and emotional self, have anything to do with our business? Well, I like to look at our moon sign as our inner brand. This is the part of our brand that maybe other people don't necessarily see, right? It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with our visual identity. Maybe our marketing messages are not necessarily coming from our moon sign, but you can always spot somebody who's not really being authentic, or they don't really know their inner landscape well enough to be operating from it in this kind of mindful, conscious way. Our moon sign is most prevalent when we are unconsciously walking about, working about. If you tend to not be very mindful and you're not operating at your highest level, I can guarantee you that you're operating from the shadow side of your moon. It's an easy pattern to fall back on. But when we really understand our moon sign and we're operating from our moon sign from this place of emotional security, from this place of intuitive trust, when we are constantly up-leveling and re-examining our roadblocks and our vulnerabilities, this enables us to come from this, I want to call it this place of wholeness, this place of completeness, that when we recognize all of our perfectly imperfect parts based on our moon sign, we can operate from this truly authentic place, loving every single part of us instead of dismissing parts of us, right? Now, if we think about your moon sign, what if you could easily understand your emotions and your intuitions? If you can really give credit to your feelings, how do you want to feel? What are your emotions telling you? What does success feel like to you, right? When you think about that question, what does success feel like to you? If you know what that feeling is, that receptive feeling of success, imagine being able to cultivate that feeling on demand. When you're able to know this feeling, this can give you motivations, right? Because now you're being driven by the emotions that you know you desire to feel, right? When we understand our true desires, right, we get to claim our destiny, right? We get to claim how we want to be recognized. We get to claim what we know we need on an emotional, secure level. We get to claim what we truly want and desire, right? Can you imagine actually knowing what you truly want and desire versus wanting or desiring something that somebody told us that we wanted, right? Our moon sign can tell us that. And when we truly know what we want, this sense of vulnerability comes up, right? This vulnerability, when met with our work that we do with our shadow side, right? By acknowledging our challenges and our fears and acknowledging the stories that are no longer serving us, by acknowledging all of these faults and all of these little pain points that we thought were faults, that we thought were weaknesses, but in reality, they are gifts that if we can truly see them and transmute these shadows into the light, we can see them as gifts, and we can use these shadows, these challenges that we've worked through in talking with our ideal customers. Our ideal customers will connect to us through those shadows, through those vulnerabilities. So no longer are these roadblocks. We can go right through them. Can you see how all of these things put together create this wholeness, this soft power, this authenticity, all in our humble moon sign? So let's dig in and illuminate your moon sign. So to recap, your moon sign represents your emotional and intuitive self, your feels. What if you could easily understand your emotions and your intuition? Your moon sign also represents your desires. What if you could easily communicate all of your desires? And your moon sign also represents your shadows. What if you could quickly recognize your triggers and move through them instead of letting them stop you? It will be a little bit helpful to understand how to read your natal chart for business with understanding your moon sign. I have an inexpensive 4-part training on my website at thesavvyluminary.com/challenge. In this training, it will show you how to look at your moon sign as well as the house placement. And this will give you extra insight with 5 ways to unlock your moon sign that we'll be covering now. So of course, the first part that we'll start with is your zodiac sign for your moon. I'm a Sagittarius moon. Now, when we look at the signs, I like to look at them as archetypes. So you're probably already really familiar with your sun sign, or just like normally if somebody says, what's your sign? You answer, and that's your sun sign. Well, your moon sign is very similar to your sun sign, but whereas your sun is your creative, radiant expression, your soul, S-O-L, or, S-O-U-L, your moon, again, is your emotional, intuitive sense, your inner self. So I like to look at all of the 12 archetypes of the zodiac. And of course, I'm an astrologer, so I'm very familiar with the 12 archetypes. Now, each of these 12 zodiacs or archetypes, they exist on a spectrum, right? They exist from a high vibration to down to a low vibration. And if we look at each of these archetypes, we can then place that your moon archetype through the filter of your inner emotional intuitive needs. This looks at your desires, your feels, your ability to heal, and your ability to nurture yourself as well as others. If you'd like a worksheet on all of the 12 zodiac archetypes, you can head on over to the files section of my free Facebook group, The Savvy Luminary, or head over to Patreon at patreon.com/The Savvy Luminary. I have all of the 12 archetypes there with all of their low vibrations and high vibrations, as well as all the reference material you need for each of the 12 zodiacs. So I'll be going through each of the 12 zodiacs with just a simple statement from the perspective of your moon sign as desiring something, as wanting to be seen or wanting to be acknowledged or desiring of success. Again, remember your moon sign is from your emotional self. We could think of this as your deepest emotional, intuitive parts of you. Oftentimes, we don't give credit to these deepest desires. So I want to illuminate these things, bring them into light. Now, these are just one key concept for each of the zodiac signs. I hope it resonates for you. If you are an Aries moon, you desire to be first. If you are a Taurus moon, you desire to be beautiful. If you are a Gemini moon, you desire to be heard and understood. If you are a Cancer moon, you desire to be accepted. If you are a Leo moon, you desire to be adored. If you are a Virgo moon, you desire to be imperfectly perfect. If you are a Libra moon, you desire to be collaborative. If you're a Scorpio moon, you desire to be powerful. If you're a Sagittarius moon, like me, you desire to be free to explore. If you're a Capricorn moon, you desire to be successful. If you are an Aquarius moon, you desire to be non-conforming. And if you are a Pisces moon, you desire to be unconditionally loved. Again, this is only one statement from your moon sign in terms of your desires. So I'm curious as to if those desires resonate with you, if you feel that's what you need in order to receive success. Now, the second way to unlock your moon sign is by looking at the element. If you're new to astrology, learning the signs by their element will help you really understand each of the zodiac signs. Let's begin with fire. Our fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. Fire signs are passionate, expressive, creative, and inspirational. If you have a moon sign in a fire element, you know that your needs, your desires, your feelings are passionate. You need a way to creatively express yourself. You need a way to be inspired as well as be inspirational. This is part of your inner fabric. The earth element signs are Capricorn, Taurus, and Virgo. If you have a moon sign in an earth element, you need and desire to be practical, to be sensual, to be grounded. You need to feel these things at your innermost core part of you. Earth moon signs need to manifest. If you have an air element moon sign like Libra, Aquarius, or Gemini, there's a little bit of a paradox because your emotional sense of security, the way that you need to feel and the way that you need to nurture is through connection, through relating with others, through understanding and thinking about it. It's a very mental, emotional state. But the lovely thing about air signs is to remember that they are social. They need to be relating to other people. And if you have a water element moon sign like Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, you are the ultimate healer, nurturer, feeler, emoter, receiver. Everything moon comes from water. So this is your natural state. People with water moon signs are natural healers. I would even go so far as saying that if you have a water moon sign, you probably have a deep intuitive connection. So really think about cultivating that intuitive sense. The third way about unlocking your moon sign is by looking at the quality or modality. You probably already know that there are three qualities: cardinal, fixed, and mutable. Cardinal moon signs desire to feel like they are starters, to feel like they are instigators. The cardinal signs are the first signs of each season, so there is a freshness in the way that you need to feel and heal. If you have a fixed moon sign, such as Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, you need to feel like you are steady, that you are a problem solver. Yeah, maybe you need to be a little bit stubborn, but that's your prerogative. That's the way that you need to feel as a fixed moon sign. Now, on the opposite end of that scale, if you are a mutable moon sign, such as Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, or Pisces, you need to feel free. You need to feel versatile. You need to feel like you can change at any time you'd like. So I hope you can see how each of these qualities cardinal, fixed, and mutable allow you to see your moon sign in a different light. I hope it gives you deeper insight. All right, the fourth way that you can look at your moon sign to illuminate your inner brand is to look at your moon sign's house placement. Of course, this is really going to help if you know how to read your natal chart just a little bit. Again, there I have an inexpensive training on my site, thesavvyluminary.com/challenge, where you can discover which house your moon sign is placed. The house placements are really important because you can find out where in your life, or because I'm a business astrologer, where in your business you need to express your desires. You can also see where and how in your business you can best access healing based on the placement of your moon sign. So for example, my Sagittarius is in the sixth house of service, the sixth house of daily responsibility, the sixth house of health and wellness. I'm going to read through each of the houses, and I hope this will give you a little bit of insight. Again, just one phrase, a little bit of insight on how, actually not how, where in your life or your business you need to express your desires, express your emotions, express your intuition, and access your healing. If your moon is in your first house, you lead and guide with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in your second house, you build value with your emotions and intuition. If your moon's in the third house, you promote and communicate with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in the fourth house, you root and belong with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in the fifth house, you celebrate and create with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in the sixth house, you serve and practice with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in the seventh house, you connect and relate with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in the eighth house, you trust and heal with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in the ninth house, you believe and see with your emotions and intuition. If your moon's in the 10th house, you promise and deliver with your emotions and intuition. If your moon is in the 11th house, you impact and change with your emotions and your intuition. If your moon is in the 12th house, you surrender and give into the flow with your emotions and intuition. These are only simple one-phrase statements for each of the house placements of your moon sign. In which house is your moon sign? Does this give you further insight? So now this fifth way to unlock your moon sign is for the advanced students. And this is by looking at aspects. An aspect is the relationship between your moon and any other planetary energies in your natal chart. If you have an aspect, this is going to give you more information as to what you need to feel or how you need to use your moon sign in your brand. So, the first aspect I want you to consider is the conjunction. The conjunction is when your moon and another planet, of course, we're just talking about the moon sign here. So when your moon and another planet are closely aligned to each other within about 5 degrees of each other, this is called a conjunction. When your moon and another planet are conjunct, this is a blend of your emotional, intuitive self and the energy of the other planet. So for example, I have a conjunction. My moon is right next to Neptune. It's a moon-Neptune conjunction. Neptune is like an ultimate octave of spirituality, of imagination, and of mysticism. And it's in my sixth house of daily routine. I like to look at also as ritual. So when I know my moon sign blended with my mystical side, I know that my emotional and intuitive self is highly influenced. It's blended with that Neptunian energy. So of course, it makes sense that I am always talking about the moon sign and I'm always talking about spirituality because this makes me feel emotionally secure. Another aspect that you may have with your moon is an opposition. An opposition is when two planetary energies are facing each other 180 degrees apart. So if you have an opposition to your moon, this is an integration between your emotional intuitive self, your moon, and the energy of that other planet. So an opposition is going to feel like it's going to either feel like it's trying to pull apart and resist each other, or it's going to like come together and be like a magnet. So throughout your life, your emotional and intuitive sense is always going to need to be over and over and over integrated with this other energy. If this other energy happens to be a sun, the sun sign, your sun, this means that you were born on a full moon, right? We always talk about the full moon as the opposition between the sun and the moon. Now, you might also have maybe say your moon opposite Mars. Well, Mars is motivation. Mars is physical energy. So your emotions might run really high. Maybe you have a little bit of an anger issue when you think about Mars, right? So whatever, if you have an opposition with your moon sign, there's always going to be an integration that you need to work through constantly over your life. So think of this integration as a gift. Now, another major aspect that your moon may have is a square. A square is a 45-degree angle between two energies. So if you have a square to your moon, this is a trigger similar to the opposition where it's integration, but now this is an external trigger between your emotions and that other planetary energy. So, for example, if we want to look at that Mars example again, so instead of like in an opposition where you're integrating your physical motivations, Mars, and your emotional intuitive self, Moon, those two things are constantly pulling at each other, asking to be integrated. If you have a square, your emotional intuitive sense, your moon, will be triggered by external forces. Some experience, some person is always going to be triggering you, and that person, if we're looking at our Mars example, right, that person might be an angry person who's always triggering your emotional intuitive sense. Those are just examples of how that could work out. Now, the next major aspect that you might have with your moon is a trine. A trine is a flow, a 120-degree angle between two planets. So in this example, we're looking at your moon sign. And if you have an external planet in a trine with your moon, these energies will flow. They will flow in harmony. So again, if we want to look at the moon and Mars, like normally moon and Mars, you wouldn't think of them as they're two very different energies, right? Soft, emotional, intuitive, healing energy, watery energy of our moon, Mars, fire. Again, just an example so you can see the difference between these energies. But if you have moon and Mars in trine, this means that there's this harmonious flow between your emotional intuitive self and your fiery motivational self. So this could mean that you are really motivated, right? You take a lot of action from your emotional sense, that these two things work together. Because sometimes emotions can get us stuck, but if you have a Mars trine to your emotions, your fiery Mars is probably always getting you to go, go, go with your emotions and your intuition. Now, I'm just covering the four major aspects. Conjunction, again, a complete blend of your moon and another energy. Opposition, the integration and pull, the opposites of two energies, your moon and another energy. The square, a trigger between your emotions and an external energy. and a trine, a harmonious flow between two energies. Of course, there are many other aspects, but we're just going to be looking at those four. So see if you have any of these aspects and see if this can filter or give any additional information or insight into your moon sign. Okay, so now you have all of this information, right? You know the archetype of your moon sign, you know the element, you know the quality, you know the house placement, and you know the aspects. So this probably will give you a lot of insight as to how you want to feel in your world, right? How you want to define success, how you want to be seen, how you want to be acknowledged, right? And then we can also look at some of the shadow sides. If you look at that 12 archetypes worksheet that you can grab on the Savvy Luminary Facebook group or on Patreon, you can look at some of those shadows, those low vibrations, to give you insights as to what are the fears and the stories that are holding you back, right? Of course, if you want deeper insight on integrating all of these, you can always hire me for an astro brand reading, and I can help you discern and dissect and really understand what your moon sign wants you to know about yourself. And in order to help you, I will leave you with 6 questions so that you can integrate your moon sign into your brand. You can find these questions in the show notes at thesavvyluminary.com. And let's go with these questions. So again, we have to remember that our moon sign and anything in astrology, it's this place of asking us to get curious. Where do we need to be mindful? And our moon sign wants us to get mindful about our emotional and intuitive self. Okay, so your first question, what does success really feel like to you, right? What does it feel like for you while receiving? The next question, how do you want to feel, right? What does security feel like for you? What does emotional security feel like to you? Next question, how do you desire to be recognized and acknowledged? Wouldn't that be amazing to claim our desires, to choose our destiny, to know how we need to be acknowledged? When you look at the shadow sides of your moon, what needs tender, loving care? What needs healing? What needs nurturing? Also, another question is, if your moon sun is your intuitive self, how does your intuition communicate with you? And you can find a hint in your element. Is it a fire? Do you get inspiration? Is it water? Do you have just such a fine-tuned sense of feeling? Is it air? Do thoughts get downloaded into your mind? Or is it earth? Do you just have a sense of knowing in your body when it comes to your intuition? And lastly, when you blend all of these things together, your desires, your feels, how you want to be recognized, you can come to your understanding of what motivates you. And I put this together as your why. If you're building your brand story, this all comes down to your why. So what motivates you? Again, you can get these 6 questions to integrate your moon sign into your brand in my show notes at thesavvyluminary.com. And if you want deeper questions on working with your moon sign, I have more worksheets on Patreon at patreon.com/thesavvyluminary. And of course, if you want to work deeper and look at your moon sign, please consider hiring me for an astro brand reading, and we can go directly to your moon sign and get to the root of what desires to be healed. All right, until next week, thanks so much. Mahalo for listening to this brand new podcast. If you enjoyed learning about astrology for entrepreneurs, help me spread the word by sharing this podcast with your business besties, and hop over to the Savvy Luminary for links to episode notes and our free Facebook community where you can send me questions about astrology or branding, as well as connect with other like-minded businesses.